I believe I am ready. Oh, that's a lot of sugar. It's the end of my coffee, from Dunkin'. So,
Voila. It all sits at the bottom.
yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I believe we are live. Let me check the chat here. Someone tell us if you can hear and see us.
I'm still seeing backstage.
Yeah, we'll see backstage, but it gets essentially streamed to the live stage, but there's a little bit of a delay.
It says we're live.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the third, and unfortunately, or fortunately for some of us, final day of the IHSEA Esports Conference. Thank you for coming out this week. I know it was kind of crazy with vacations and everything going on. So if you did miss some sessions, or there was 2 sessions that were booked back to back, you did not get a chance to see, we will have recordings up. We don't know the timeline. We're hoping within the next couple weeks here, but we have to figure out how to get the platform, where we're sharing them, etc. So please bear with us and while we figure all of that out. But we plan to get them to you, if not before school starts, at least right after school starts, so everyone has a chance to review some of these videos, because we had some really great sessions this week and some really great keynote speakers, not including the one we have coming up for you right now. So a couple key things for today. Don't forget, with Hopin, everyone is a participant. Everyone's involved. If you're in a session today, don't click that add or share video. That's essentially for you to join the stage. So unless they ask you to join the stage, feel free to interact in chat or ask if you can join. Come on and ask a question at the end. Feel free to do that, but just don't join it ahead of time, because some of our panels have multiple people and it will get locked out if you weren't able to do it. Also, remember to, during our break periods, to use that networking tab. It's really cool. It's like speed dating. I've done a bunch of them so far. It's really cool to be paired up with someone. You got 3 minutes. Tell us who you are, who it is, and you can extend it, or you can leave early if it's not clicking. It's literally just like speed dating, but it's kind of fun to meet our community. I've jumped in there quite a bit and talked to people about what's going on, and just seeing what's going on with their school. And it's nice to meet some faces out there, because a lot of times we don't get to do that when we're spread across the state. For that. So we do have some great sessions coming up for you today. And before we talk about that, I do want to thank again Bytespeed for being our sponsor for the conference. If you haven't checked out their expo booth, please go talk to them. If you're thinking about adding or building a lab or arena, go check out Bytespeed. They will help you out. Free consulting, no pressure. They'll let you know what it is. They did a great presentation yesterday, which we are going to ask to make sure we can have it available, because it kind of answered all the questions that you would need to do for building a lab in your school if you wanted to get started. And then if you want to go into ask deeper questions that they didn't go over, and then they're definitely willing to do that. They definitely helped me out all the time with stuff that I've been doing at my schools, and even with my own personal machine. I no non-sponsored plug here, that I paid for my machine itself from them, but they have actual video cards in stock right now. So if you're looking to get something, talk to them soon, because that's the only reason why I got it from them, because I've been looking to build for like a year now, and I'm not in that grind of jumping on them as soon as they go on sale, or 1 or 2 is released. So I was like, just build me a machine and give it to me, because normally I build them myself, but this time it's just been too hard with that market. So they have stuff in stock. So if you're looking, please go ahead and talk to them. But for some of the sessions we have going on today, we have our coaching Overwatch session that got flipped over to today. We also have a Twitch and Twitch students. So if you're looking to get more involved with Twitch or Twitch students, you want to know more about streaming, more about what they can do for you, that'll be part of our first sessions as well. We also have 2 diversity, equity, and inclusion sessions coming up during that first break. One of them held by Jack from ISU, and another one from June, who is from a local organization here in Chicago, who will be talking about diversity and inclusion and esports and gaming. So definitely check out one of those sessions during our first bracket. And then after that, we have our second set of sessions. We have Fostering Growth in Esports, put on by Ben Bruce, who's from Barrington, who coached previously at Barrington High School. He has relocated and is still searching for a school. We also have our Coaching Fortnite session and our beginners session for Discord. So if you want to know about Discord, he will Andy Mendez will be doing a presentation on that during our second session. And then we do have our closing session. It's about 45 minutes. It's closing remarks. We're going to talk about what this year is upcoming. What do you need to do from this point forward? Now you've attended this conference. You have all these ideas. What do you need to do? And what is some of our stuff going to look like for the fall? We're going to tell you as much as we can during that presentation. So definitely check our closing remarks and expectations. But without further ado, I do want to welcome Kevin Brown. Thank you for being here, Kevin, and speaking.
Pleasure.
Kevin's going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff related to esports and, you know, what it can do for your school. So I do want to thank him for being here. I'll let him do his own introduction as well. If you guys have any questions for him, feel free to drop them in the Q&A or just drop them in the chat. Either way is fine. If he doesn't catch them, we'll notify him and let him know he's got questions there and talk to him. And I'll jump on at the end for a Q&A session when you have it to help you navigate that in case there's a lot of people asking questions.
Perfect. I appreciate you. Yes, let's do exactly that. If something pops up in chat about something that's up on the screen at the moment, then let's deal with that in the moment because no better time, I think. I wouldn't want somebody to have this great salient point. Oh, I want to lean into this, and I blows past it. It doesn't get addressed. So good morning, everybody. Let's do this today. I'd like to present something, not the typical NASEF kind of stand at the podium and talk you into this. I'm not here to sell refrigerators or Amway or things like that. I really want to help everybody here in the group today because you already are part of IHSEA. I get it backwards. IHSEA, too many letters. You're already part of the program working with them. So I'd like to take our turn going somewhere a little bit different today, a checkup, if you will, about the point of view. I am Kevin Brown. I am the esports program specialist and the curriculum developer who works with the Orange County, California Department of Education. I'm a credentialed CTE teacher, teach in middle school, teach in high school, teach at the college level. I'm also director of education and training for NASEF, the North American Scholastic Esports Federation, of which IHSEA is an affiliate member. So we work with Todd McFarland and his group extensively, looking to promote this idea about scholastic esports. So the S in NASEF being just that, scholasticism. So what we're going to do today is look at this sort of like an eye exam. Just like when we've all got to go, we all hit a certain number. There's an age where you find yourself in a chair and it's what looks better, number 1 or number 2. So I'd like to take a look at esports from this kind of framework, that we get our bearings, if we will, to see what our eyes can actually perceive. Check out our field of vision, this idea that how we're perceiving esports in general, but scholastic esports in particular, is our field of vision wide enough to encompass what it really means and what it can do for us. If we need to diagnose our frame of reference, if there's something that maybe we can fess up to, maybe there is an implicit bias, maybe we're coming at this with the idea that, yeah, it's a pastime for kids, but that's all it really is. I'd like to lean into that just a little bit and check where we stand, and then consider if any of us need corrective lenses, I'll call them, a different way of looking at things. I'm not here to put glasses on your head and tell you, look this way. This is not anything cultish at all. This is just for us to be able to consider where we're at now. Some of you, Todd is letting me know, have been in this since the beginning, have been enjoying whether it's the use of esports as a learning tool or as a great pastime for kids for a couple of years or longer. And others of us are coming to this very, very new and thinking about how does this fit into what I can do, what I can offer my kids. So still valid for everybody here along the spectrum. So let's start with this. Just like going into sitting in the chair with an ophthalmologist, to get our bearings, I got to do this for the state of California. So this is something I just checked this morning to make sure 2020 numbers are still being ground, you would imagine, because of looking at the effects of COVID. It's all over local radio and news about learning loss. But if I look back to just pre-COVID and how our state was doing, just using California as an example, we're not doing so well. We would like to think. So our state dashboards, you can go to this. It's free for anybody to look at. And this puts up there a variety of different factors. And you can see these top 7 on the boards here. Looking at things like graduation rate. And there's a color scale. Blue is best. Green is okay. Yellow is average. Orange is troublesome. And red is in the red. It's not where you want to be. And you can see that a lot of things in California are dipping yellow, red, and orange. It's not great. To be quite honest, where we're going up is where we don't want to be. Chronic absenteeism is climbing up. Suspension rates are climbing up. Great. So our graduation rates, we're graduating more kids, but not all the kids that we should be in, not all ways we can. The reason I bring this to your attention is because we have seen that. For 5 years, we've been doing clinical research with the University of California at Irvine, our research partners in all of this. And we went at this with this idea that Scholastic Esports can help draw in a certain kind of kid who does not feel attached to school, who can be sometimes labeled, unfortunately, as, one of those kids, problematic, doesn't tend to show up, not smart. I'd say quite the opposite. But what we're seeing is there's not a lot of attention to those things that we're checking, the metrics of education. How are English language arts? Generally speaking, good among English native speakers, but where we don't, we're still grinding on that number for English learner process. There was no color for that. We really can't get a good feel on how we're teaching ELD. Mathematics, we would think that as the U.S. with all the different, Silicon Valley and all the different kinds of software and programming and engineering things we have in California, we do better in math. We're not. We're not where we should be. College and career readiness. We say we've got career tech education pathways, but we don't push them like we should. And industry isn't always supportive of us and giving the opportunities for kids to express themselves, find out through internships whether or not jobs are great for them. And then, like I said, chronic absenteeism. This was pre-COVID, up 1.1% year over year. You're thinking, man, that's not really a big amount. 11% of our kids in California, over 600,000 kids were chronically absent pre-COVID. That's a scary number. When over 500,000 kids, you can't find them on a day-to-day basis. And there's nothing we're doing in the state on the school system that has been drawing them in, has been holding their attention. So it's just like that. This idea that, for example, let me just put them all up here on the board for you. You can see that there are 13 different student classifications that were being ranked from red to blue. So where the problems are. And we can see that what drags us down is just that. There are certain kinds of student populations, student demographics that are just not getting the benefit that others are. Now, I'm not trying to make this and a diatribe on is this critical race theory, or the things that we're doing. Are we marginalizing certain students, pardon me, on purpose? It's not that at all, but just it tells us that we're not doing a good job as a state of penetrating where we should. So with that in mind, this idea that esports can help at all has been a phenomenal thing to uncover and then to apply. So this is where research, and I'll show you some slides in just a minute that back up this idea. But the idea, let me just ping the group, and Todd, maybe you can help me read the chat. So when we had this, you hear this term about esports, what comes to mind for the group? Good thing, bad thing I have to grapple with, it's here, I guess I'm stuck with it. What are we seeing in chat?
I'm waiting.
Okay.
There is a little bit of a delay between when you present and when.
Got it. Okay. Also, having taught high school, I'm totally okay with awkward silences. This works for a while, so.
It feels like we're back in school already.
So while people are thinking, I will tell you that, and Todd, maybe you want to chime in. Originally speaking, when you heard about esports, when you first began to get involved with it, what was your gut level reaction to it?
Yeah, well, my gut level is I didn't really understand it, especially in the beginning. Before I really got involved in it, I didn't know about the pro level at that time because it wasn't any of the games I played. So a lot of people just kind of, I don't know what it was. It was like, oh, what is this? How do you get on the pro scene? How do you do this? Am I good enough for that? I had no idea.
Right. That's it. You and I both played role-playing games. So, you get into a character, you jump into the story, and you're living it, and you're loving it, and you're swinging your sword or casting your spell or whatever you're doing. Right. Who knew that there was this whole other side to it? So it is a world of competitive video gaming. Here's just a snapshot for those who may or may not know. Esports started as a thing, 1972. So over at Stanford University here in California, they played Space Wars. The grand prize was a one-year subscription to Rolling Stone magazine. That was the big deal. But so now it's this idea that it is multiplayer online video games that formed into competitions That's what most think of as esports. It's a huge and growing industry. It is attractive. It does pay money. Students do get paid to do these things. Maybe that's part of the worrisome note about it, is that it pulls kids' minds away from things like education, career planning, security for the future, as opposed to being really attracted, hyper-focused on the bauble that's in front of them right away. But interesting to note that though we didn't know about it, Todd and myself to start with back in the 70s, 80s going through this, it does rival American traditional sports. So it's got as much viewership, and in some cases more, than things like football, basketball, hockey, baseball. Believe it or not, viewership is going up, and just a small projection says 640 million people are tuning into esports challenges, esports matches, the big competitions, whether at the collegiate or the pro level. So it'll double by 50%. It'll go up again between now and 2023, only a few short years away. So this number is amazing. And not just, the tried and true people, but who love whatever particular game, but those who view it casually as a sports, as a sort of a consumption kind of thing. So is it real? Is it trending? It's more than that. It's taken on a life of its own. So as an idea, how many adults typically play video games, have something on their phone, actually have something on a laptop or a computer, they go home and enjoy it regularly? Research shows that about half of adults will enjoy a video game of some kind, not to play professionally, but just to play for the sake of playing. Research also shows that almost every teen with access to something is playing some kind of game at some time. I shouldn't even say teen. It does go even further back. It'll go back to the tweens. So in middle schools, we're seeing attention through Minecraft and other games, but starting earlier. So this idea about scholastic esports is just this. We're trying to meet kids where they already are. Before COVID, we knew that kids were getting together virtually. They would lobby up in a game that they would like. So you would log in, go out on the interwebs, and you would find each other on a platform like Battlefy or on Steam, or a particular game system like a Nintendo will have its own virtual lobby. You go and you meet your friends there. You gear up just like you were in a locker room. You turn around, you go out the door, and you're playing a game of choice. Kids are digitally native, and COVID has made it more so. So they were looking for avenues and ways to cope, to deal with, to connect with their friends. So the idea about scholastic esports leans into this passion and then this ability, this technological fluency. Why do we do it? It's with this future game in mind, the end game, if you will, that there are over 250 colleges in the U.S. currently that are offering some kind of scholarship, whether it's a partial or it's a full ride, 1 year or several years, for kids to come to those campuses and to play esports titles, just like they get recruited just like any of the traditional sports. So I'm telling, for some of you in the group here listening today, no surprises with this. You're fully aware. Notice that it really is in the Midwest. It's all in and around you. Once you get west of the Mississippi, it begins to die out a little bit. This is our friends over at NASE, the North American Collegiate Esports Federation, looking to broaden their ranks as universities come online. But we represent out here in the West. But it's an amazing idea that so many colleges are offering scholarships for kids to chase whatever their passion is, whatever major they wish. And they've got to be really good at a particular game. I'll tell you also that the United States Department of Education, Cal Perkins, other career opportunity programs are dropping huge amounts of federal dollars into programs to further explore and allow people to show the experiment of what they're doing with education and esports. Case in point, these are 9 recipients. This actually goes back to 2019, 2020. That won a grant, and my particular school district actually did. I wrote a grant for, be careful what you wish for, and I got it, just about $500,000 to take an esports idea, to actually take what I developed, a grid system, sort of an undergraduate program, freshman through senior years, 4 vertical years, and converted all the curriculum for those 4 years into esports flavored curricula, lined up with career tech education, as well as dual enrollment at community colleges nearby, so that kids could actually lean into their passions about esports, satisfy all of their college exit or college entry, high school exit requirements, but then do so with a focus on what they want to do with their lives, not just in games, but through and past the gaming time. So The fact that the United States government, the Department of Education, is actually giving out money and then studying how we're doing these things should really help to really prove the case that this is more than just a fad. We're not just gaming for the love of the game, as I tell Todd. We're not making thumb monkeys out of kids, although they'll want to do that. Competition is certainly part of it, a very exciting part of it. But the fact that governmental agencies are now pouring money into this to see, is this a valid way to educate our kids, is a very exciting thing. And so I'm happy to be one of these 9 participants to be able to show over a 3-year period that this is making a difference. It's actually changing some of those California state scores for us, where attention to math goes up, reading and language use goes up. And because kids are engaged and want to come in and learn in this new unique way, things like absenteeism and suspension rates go down. So if that sets the field, gives us sort of a bearing, now let's actually look into this field division. What are things that may enhance or in some ways limit our field division about what we can think about esports? And so a lot of time we come at this with these sorts of blinders on. What can limit our field of view is this idea that we don't have access to all the kinds of data we need to make decisions. And that is something that might be found at the state level. Certainly, Todd has access through IHSEA to a lot of data that NASEF has gathered. We are paying for university studies. When those studies come out, we popularize that information, not because it's in our own benefit, but so that everybody in this field can learn from it and use this as the proper kind of argument to negotiate at the state and regional levels for funding to help backfill these kinds of programs we'd like to see start with esports. Maybe that you do have access to raw data like I'm giving you today, but don't quite understand that there's a human under it all. Yes, these are data, numbers, demographics, but what we're talking about are kids. What we're talking about is their ability to see themselves in these programs, to understand that the applicability of what they're learning isn't just to barf back data to pass a test, but to help shape ideas about career, about personal potential, about where they could go with esports, but what kinds of jobs are available beyond just the game itself. This idea that there may be outreach, but to whom are we attaching? It's easy to find any kind of vendor. Lots of people want to support maybe what you're doing in esports, but because they want to get into your particular business model. Who would not love to sell things to a school district? Who would not like to reach an entire state and make them a market? Well, we're not interested in markets. So this idea that we need to reach out to more than just businesses. We need to make sure that mom and dad, as stakeholders in Scholastic Esports, understand, because we want their students to become fully involved in what's going on. We may have this preconceived notion of gaming. Some of us might, in our roles as teachers or administrators, think that, yeah, it's still just this. It's a pastime at its very best. And I would challenge all of us to see beyond this. Yes, there is clinical research that proves that good things happen when kids do game. But more than that, the idea that games themselves are just a silly waste of time. Researchers will also tell us that play is how we learn. Play is learning. Winning is just showing mastery over a particular thing. Like getting an A on the test. Yes, it means you've mastered content. Doesn't mean necessarily you've taken it in, internalized it, and found a way to use it. So we'd like to explore beyond this idea that gaming is just for fun. We also recognize that there's generational thinking going on. Many a time when I present to administrators at school districts, they look at me and say, look, I've got a PhD, I am published, I've done all these things. I never had esports to support me when I was growing up, and I am by all definitions successful. Why do I need to bring esports into my district if I am the model of success? And I kindly push back on that person and tell him or her, that's how you got there successfully. We did not have all of the digital capability, the technological capability going back for those who got educated in the 70s, in the 80s, even in some cases in the 90s. Some of these platforms did not exist. And who would we be not to take advantage of the fact that kids these days are digitally native? It's a language they speak. It's not our fault that we don't speak it, but it is our fault when we leave it on the table as an opportunity. We should not have these generational barriers that say, as I learn, so you will learn. It doesn't make it relevant to kids these days. And again, they will certainly learn for the test, but then throw away anything that they can't see as immediately applicable in the world that they live in now. So things that can actually enhance our field of vision in terms of what we look at esports is that we use data to make proper decisions. So the data drives where we want to go. So if I can show clinical research that says that, yes, happiness, a sense of affiliation to the school because you've got programs that matter to kids, will drive them into classrooms, will get them over the kind of creepy post-COVID feeling and will allow them to feel that they can come back into the classroom, that's a great thing to understand and look for a way to use that. The fact that student voice is important. When NASEF helps IHSEA and others set up clubs, we do so with a student model in mind. We don't just come at this from saying set up competitive teams, because not every kid who joins a club wants to play a particular game or any game at all, but they want to be involved. They want to show that they have other skills. They want to show that they can be leaders among their peers. So by giving them student voice in the formation and running of the club, they are more likely to support it, do all of these right things we'd like to see. There is a strength in community. And again, community is not just the adults who generally manage the clubs and the students who participate, but mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever helps to raise that child, as well as school administration. And then choosing adaptability and inclusion. That, again, we don't look at stereotypes thinking it's just one kind of kid who is a gamer. It's a very diverse crowd these days. Again, because English language is learned through esports, English sort of the de facto language of gaming. Kids whose first or second language is not English feel emboldened to come to the club because English, as well as they can speak it, is just enough to get them in. It's the mad passion for the game. But once they get in, they improve and they do things. So being able to say others belong in the club, not just those who look like me, come from my zip code or my side of the tracks. Everybody, what my kids say, all minds, all kinds can join that club. And then lastly, this idea that there's generational appreciation. The research I'll show you in just a couple of slides very clearly outlines that kids are figuring out that, wow, when I settle down and I listen to those who are my seniors, right, those adults in the room, they actually bring things that are relevant that help me game better, but also help me settle down and become a better person. So there's an appreciation of those who have gone before, those who have other different life experiences, and who are bringing that to students for their own personal benefit. So again, that binocular field of vision is this. We can look at this two different ways. Sometimes we hear that this quote that insanity is the result of doing the same thing over and over but expecting different results. We think that was Einstein. It wasn't. It was Rita Mae Brown who brought us this. What Einstein actually said about this idea about insanity, this notion that the mind we have now that identifies a problem cannot be the same mind we use to solve the problem. We need to look at things like student involvement and student engagement on campus, how they affiliate to a campus, what we can do to bring them in, how we can salt their learning with things that they find interesting, that they will lean into, projects that they find meaningful and applicable, that aren't just dry rote facts, but that can show them a way that they can apply STEM skills, math skills, science skills into their future careers, into things they want to do. We need to change our mindset. We need to change our field of vision, if we will, hence the theme for today. So how do we do this? How do we know if we're seeing things correctly? So let's take a look at this. Just like imagine you're sitting in your ophthalmologist chair, you've got to cover one eye, and what do? They make you look through a lens, and the lens is this, and they always ask you, which looks better, number one or number two? So let's consider a gamer. Which looks better? Is this the way you see a traditional gamer? Coffeeed up? Well, at a certain age, but definitely Red Bull and Takis or Cheetos, and we've got endless cups and all these things, and all we do is grind on games, 3 o'clock in the morning, socially isolate. Is a gamer this, or is a gamer this? This idea that you can be a scholar gamer. A colleague of both Todd and mine, one James O'Hagan up in Wisconsin, was the first I heard to coin this term about a scholar gamer. It's how he looks at his kids. Yes, we play, but we play with a purpose, with an intention. That there's scholasticism along what we do. So what we do in a game has an output. We can look at it through a curricular lens. We can look at it through a business lens and a career lens. So we've got more than that. So I would challenge all of us to look and understand that our opinion of gaming maybe needs to be a little bit wider and who a gamer can really be. Which looks better? Number one, this idea that gamers are one kind of people, or number two, do we still think that gamers, it's only white and Asian males of a certain age group? If we're stereotyping, but we're trying to grow clubs, I think we have a problem right there. We're only anticipating one kind of kid to come and join us. Whereas I'll tell you what my 6th, 7th, and 8th graders said when I formed their first as an elective class at my grandson's middle school. I was allowed to teach there. And we brought this together, and they came up with this very interesting tagline. I wanted them to make something that worked on a newcomer's guide. I had them build a booklet. So when you came into the club, you had sort of your how-to manual. And I said, I'm going to need something really buzzy. I need like a cool catch line, like, you know, Nike's got "Just Do It" or McDonald's got "I'm loving it." I need something from you all so that if a student comes in and wants to join your club and they say, ooh, mages of the tech lab, we are anything but ordinary, what's something that they can understand about this club in one sentence that would let them know they belong there? They deliberated for about 15 minutes and came back, Mr. Brown, we got it. And I said, really? Lay it on me. What have you got in one sentence? And they said these 4 words: all minds, all kinds. And out of the mouths of babes, right? There's nothing better to distinguish who belongs in a club. Anybody. Skin tone, zip code, how many eyeballs you have, what's your gender preference. None of those things matter, but a passion for a game and for the desire to want to join the community that plays it. So which looks better? Number 1, looking at peripherals. Is this what a peripheral should be? I think this is kind of the social isolation in a bucket. This is actually a $2,500 rig I've seen some students have, and it's a totally immersive experience. If you're gaming, it looks very Star Trek. That's nice, but is that really what technology should bring us? Or can we do something like this? Would number 2 be, instead of a unified, one kind of experience, what if we had a collaborative workspace? And here's Butler College setting up for meets that they have. You can see they've got it up on the big Jumbotron screens. You can see who's playing Super Smash, but you can also see that there are other workstations. Other games are going on. Kids are fulfilling functions like we're doing right now. They're actually running the event. They're shoutcasting. They're doing all of this. When we set up clubs in NASEF, it's not just to focus on the player, as I've mentioned, but it's to give kids opportunity to do all these other necessary kinds of work that are required to bring esports to life. You can't be a player unless you have all these other kinds of collaborative work going on to support you so that you can play. Let me stop right there for a second, Todd, and check in. Anything in the chat, any questions or hands being raised?
Nope, we're all good so far. Keep going.
Excellent, thank you. I think last one, which looks better? So are we winning for life? Do we play the game just to play the game? Or is it, because a trophy's important. That self-acclaim, that self-actualization, very Maslow, right? Thinking about how do I use all of my skills and abilities for the betterment of my community? Sure, it might help when I win for today. It's great to get that. But what we try to do is get students to look about this idea. And we know that kids are getting recruited, just like in ball sports. They're getting recruited right out of high school into colleges or into professional esports teams. These things actually happen. But what we want kids to understand is certainly you could do that. You could chase that. There may be a passion. There may be a dream. And who's to say, if the Olympians come and tap on you and you get to go to the Olympics or you get to be picked for the college seat that you wanted to, that's fantastic. We would never say no. But we would say, with a little bit of caution, consider not playing to pro, consider playing through pro. What are you doing to learn? So when you're there gaming, whether it's for college or professionally, that window of opportunity is really small. When you are no longer the high scorer, when you are no longer the thing of the minute that's most important in a particular game title, you can't do the Tom Brady move. You can't go away and then come back. In esports, it's rather fickle. So once you're no longer on top, don't have the gigs that Ninja does where you get all of the different sorts of sports boosting and you get recruited out there to become, the endorser for certain projects, you're gone. You're out of the scene. So what can you be doing besides your love of the game? What else can you be doing in the esports sphere? So we want kids to consider that. Win for life, not just for today. Oh, I lied. There is one more. This idea. What are the outcomes of esports? Oftentimes, and again, so this is sometimes generational thinking. This is sometimes our fear, right? We think that violent games make violent kids. I still have this in pockets of the country, large and small ones, that say, if we're playing first-person shooters, it's going to make a first-person shooter out of my kid. I will tell you, looking at year 4 of 5 in the research data, I can now say it's gone through IRB process that there is conclusive evidence which shows that this is categorically untrue. Quite the opposite. Clubs that have, or esports teams that form, that have this club modality, that have a community that play esports, do not just lean into this just for the sake of violence. Quite the opposite. It mitigates violent behavior. It mitigates the need for addictive behavior to play a game. It's great to be on a team. We love the accolades, no doubt about it. Some kids really get social credit out of this, where the key jungler for League of Legends, or the one who's got the Wii Fit trainer, the best in Super Smash, is the celebrity on the level of the quarterback for the high school football team. Great, but let's consider this instead. As a scholastic esports outcome, certainly there is gaming. Let's go for those game chops. Kids want to be popular, want to be recognized. But let's put this attention also on graduating, because you'll have your esports club throughout your 4 years through high school. Let's set that other goal. Let's look into these other kinds of allied pursuits you can have, like in STEM, like in robotics, like in anything high tech. Biotech's very big out here in California, probably same in Illinois. The idea being that there is, again, this community that all kinds, all minds belong in esports, not just limited to playing. So what we're really saying is the definition of scholastic esports is this. It's the intentional use of video gaming as a vehicle for learning. We know that kids are here. We know they enjoy it. We know that they will push and pull mightily if we can task them with something, an English class, a history class, that has esports threaded through it like a condiment. They will learn, they will grow, they will thrive. So we've just identified, wow, some of those things, the number ones, I saw more of those than I saw others. Maybe my point of view is still a little bit sharp. Maybe I still hold in my heart that, I don't know, esports, is it a good thing? My administrator's making me listen to this, and I get why it's good for kids, but I don't think I'm quite there. Let's take a look at this. I'm not saying that it's bad to hold that thought, that let's be cautious. I was that person. When I was asked to write the initial curriculum for NASEF, I was a naysayer. I could write curriculum all day. It's my job. But I didn't believe in the idea that we're doing this for esports kids, because I thought they were thumb monkeys. I thought it's not a sport you don't really sweat. But then I had to realize, look, kids are already here. They're already gaming. So can we write something attractive in this space that we can use to challenge them to step up and do more? Can we show them that what we can teach them has application through their game into other avenues? So it's like this. If I put these all up here, like I said, the idea that, all these are the top 5 or 6 things that I hear brought to me all the time. If we only look at one aspect of esports and see these kinds of things, that it does cause addiction, or that's what we believe it does, that kids will play for several hours a day. Well, they need to be monitored. There needs to be a reason for them to put the controller down. And in a team environment where all we do is focus on leaderboards and getting ahead, that could be a problem. I get that. We tend to isolate because we're just going to focus. But then don't we do that with other sports? Aren't there kids who live in the gym because they've got to get bigger? They've got to be stronger so they can come launching off the line in football, so they can take a longer stroke when they're in the pool and be able to make that .04 like we've seen in the Olympics recently, right? These minuscule time barriers. But they focus on this. They become isolated. They tend to pull away from school because they're focusing. It's their sport, their thing. There can be this, kids get violent when they're ripped away from it, when you take them away from what it is they want to do. They are toxic on screen. They are toxic in chat. But then if we look at this with this other point of view, this other mindset, that there is a balance, that when you walk away from the game, but you still do other things in a club space that pertain to what goes on in esports, it feels equally gratifying. That when the community shows you, we need you to be more than just a player. I need you to be the talking head. I need your unique sense of personality. I need you as a shoutcaster. I need you to write a great piece that can go up on our blog. You're the person who can do that. So the idea that there's interest-based learning along STEM lines, but also through common core curriculum that we have to teach. Yes, a foreign language works through esports. If you want to go to Korea and take on the Koreans, a little bit of Hangulgo is going to be necessary. Maybe you should learn about the customs. Maybe you should learn about the long and rich history about what goes on. So esports, again, can be a hook into so many different things. Research will show you, and I'll show you in a slide here in a minute, that self-regulation, this idea that kids moderate themselves as they stay in club space and realize that kids are different than me. And I need to be tolerant of, accepting of those kinds of differences so that we can grow a bigger bench, we can feel bigger together. So really it's this idea that perspective gives us one angle. We can only see part of the picture, but through the magic of what's going on looking at my screen, Scrat will move from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional if I can perceive the depth of what's going on. And so it is with esports. When we see that it's more than just gameplay, that there are solid academics, that there are research that show that social emotional learning and mindsets in kids can be reached and changed in positive ways, that's a reason to give depth and consideration to what it is we can do. So how do we know what's the right prescription? And how is it expensive, right? We all think about this. I know when I look at glass prices, oh, it's great. Free exam. We just had a free exam today, but the glasses are going to kill me. It's $500 for something that looks cool, something that will work for me. Well, may I suggest NASEF? So here we are with this wonderful infographic, this esports ecosystem thought out by these big brains at the bottom there that are cited. These are academicians at University of California at Irvine. These are actual game players at the collegiate and professional level. These are my colleagues at Orange County Department of Education. So thinking about the idea that, yes, while we see the player at the center of all things esports, that player is surrounded by some large concepts, those 4 white circles. And I'd submit a 5th one, health and wellness, kind of overlays, permeates all of these. Each one of those large concepts has specific kinds of work itinerant to it, without which we can't have esports. Esports doesn't exist if we don't have somebody think up a game, write a story, design a character, code that into an actual game, sell that on a digital platform or in a box at a Target or at a Best Buy or a Walmart. Pitch it to me as a sale that I can see on any of my social media channels so that I can know that the new game is coming. Teach it to me so that I learn how to play, whether it's through videos, content creation, a coach at my school, and then have somebody actually not just build the computers on which I'm playing, but, pull the LAN together so that I can play at a site. All of those things surround and enhance the player so that I can play that game, but those other 16 kinds of work have to happen. So if we take a look at this, these are 16 kinds of work. In California, we have 15 career tech education sectors. 9 of 15 sectors bump into esports smartly. So I'm saying that curricula is right here. Need and industry is right here. If we use this as a launch pad, look where this goes if I just extend this logically. If I put that diagram at the center in the gray, and I know it's difficult to read, there are 120 different kinds of work that are directly attached to things that we can learn through and from esports. So if we just take those large jewel tone right here out of the center and take any of these parts, if we look at media, we can get into and become a journalist or a photographer, an editorial manager. But if I slide down even a little bit, I start to get into events and organization. I can take what I've learned and I can actually lead events. Wait, come over here with me. Administration. We think that's coaching and running a team. But yes, that's also financial smarts. I can go work for Deloitte Touche right down south with you there in Chicago, their head office. I can become a financial manager because part of running a team is running the finances required to manage that team. I can get into legal careers. I can get into health careers. One of my favorite people to show as I'm training clubs to get started is a Dr. Levi, who is a sports medicine doctor, kinesiologist, who's got a great series on the web about just hand stretches for kids to get them introduced to this idea that healthy gaming can make them good for life, can make them better players, but can keep them healthy for life as they're gaming. But that also might inspire a career in kinesiology, sports medicine. Yes, kids who play esports become doctors. That's the truth of the matter. So this is what we're seeing if we extend this out logically. So the sweet spot for us is to do just that. How do we focus on something that's midway between school and curriculum, between extracurricular and just gaming for the love of gaming? That's where Scholastic Esports kind of lives. Now, something to which you all immediately have access, if you were to go to www.nasef.org, go out onto our website, and then go to learning, you will find very quickly this community library, a searchable library of all different kinds of curriculum that I have written, others have written, our Scholastic Fellows have written, that reside there free for use. All you've got to do is log in who you are and where you are, and then you will get access to any of these different kinds of career tech education and solid career modules. You see there things for middle school, things for elementary school, all things for high school, and we're uploading. We just finished a whole raft of Scholastic Fellows. and they're projects from last year, so we're still vetting those and making sure the branding's right. But those 27 additional lessons will be added to this. So we've got a growing body that's all available for you. How do you get access to it really quickly? On almost any of the NASEF web pages, any of the pages you're going to see in the top right-hand corner, a great big blue button that says Get Started or Activate. About 10 minutes to go through the login process, totally free, and about 2 weeks to go through the back-end stuff. But Todd and myself, we are happy to tell you about how that works. So you can certainly reach out. You can get a second opinion. Allow me to bring into the group today, Mr. Anthony Seba. He's the executive director at the Sam Willie Academy. And when I click this, we should be able to see a video just to give you an idea. What does another administrator who, looking at this now for almost 4 years, think about esports, and how does this belong on a campus, especially a campus that has a diverse population? Some that are, again, we've got kids that are homeless. We have kids that are in transitional housing, kids that are in alternative education programs. How does this all work to reach those different kind of students? So let's see if this fires off like I wish. Should. And Todd, let me know if you can see this.
Hello， 能看到我吗？我先自我介绍一下，我是乐乐的妈妈。我家乐乐呢，从小在美国长。
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me do this. Let me stop sharing my screen and reshare the screen. Sometimes it gets booted out like that. Okay. Let's try this again. Where'd you guys go? It should be. Okay. How about now? Can we see the NASEF logo popping up?
Yep, you're all good now.
Okay, good. Let me run this.
The two very different avenues that we utilize esports here at Sam Willie Academy. One of them is in the after-school space.
We're missing some sound, though. You might have to reshare the sound.
Okay. I thought I did share for sound. Do that again. Share audio. Okay, queuing up.
There are two very different avenues that we utilize esports here at Sam Willie Academy. One of them is in the after-school space, actual gaming, and our kids do play after school Monday through Thursday, typically 4 days a week, and they practice games. And we have, matches against other schools, no different than our basketball team goes and plays another school as well. It's the same thing.
All right, so this is our esports room. We have our Overwatch team, which is right here.
I'm gonna throw an orb in the window.
They're practicing for our upcoming competition, which is pretty important to them. I know that this is offered with scholarship money, so they're practicing as a team. We obviously have some League of Legends players.
And then how do I print?
So you can buy one of these bigger items. The more expensive, usually the better item.
I think I got her. Yeah. We have some people over here playing Fortnite.
All right. At 30.
There's always been a subset of kids that are kind of hard to reach at any high school. They don't play a sport. They're not involved in a whole lot of clubs or activities, but they love video gaming. What this after-school space has allowed us to do is really it creates an academic accountability.
Guys, just let me know if you guys need me to ult.
Well, the after-school space has been great. They're learning how to stream. They're learning how to build websites and shoutcasts and stuff like that.
And I've already asked at least 15 people.
And we just need budget right now. Dominic already told me we have a sustainability.
Are we trying to get these kids to be professional gamers? Professional gamers, they're doing it 12, 14, 16 hours a day. And in my opinion, that's not real healthy, right? And in the NFL, less than 1% of the employees in the NFL are the actual players. So what's the other 99%, right? Whether you're in marketing or you're in HR, you're in hospitality. So no different than esports. So we're trying here through our after-school class and in the English classes to get these kids to find what they're passionate about and expose them to different careers. whatever it is. But we all need that outlet, that thing that we're passionate about, and they're going to do it anyway. Might as well make it a healthy situation.
Esports is very close, and video games in general are very close to our hearts, and we like to play video games a lot. So I think it's a growing space. It's a great medium to share your talents. Yeah, this is our esports club. It's pretty cool.
All right, let me come on back to the main presentation. There we go. So I hope that I'm building a mindset about why Scholastic Esports, why this is good, how our changing field of vision. I think many of you are saying, I got this. This is the reason I got involved in the first place. There may be some who are aware of some of the tangential benefits, but haven't really put it all together like this. Everything here, all these bullet points, these are all the things that not just research, but now 4 years of NASEF working through this with over 1,900 clubs at this point. We're in 49 states in the U.S., we're in Mexico, Canada, and 17 other countries besides. So upwards of 18,000 kids and only getting bigger. Now that we're aligned with IHSEA, we are beginning to work with them. Certainly they've got a great competitive tournament base, but really it's to be able to help kids see that there's so much more than just this gaming aspect, that there is collaborative learning, that there is project-based ideation that we can be doing in the classrooms to make things come alive, so that for us in our state, we've proven that we can write curriculum that's equally rigorous, but more exciting, I think, in the different kinds of disciplines we can write. And that's a very short crosswalk to do something like this in Illinois. Your state standards are very similar to California's. So the idea that we can do things to make that work, to find those linkage points where you have curriculum that supports your kids in this way, that makes what they're learning relevant to their lives. So again, they're not just, showing up and regurgitating facts just to get, a good grade on a test and then never remembered again, but showing that, okay, what do we want to do with statistics? Why are we learning pre-calculus? Because we can make decision models. We can figure out, based on statistics in a game, which squad is going to perform better, which athletes, make a better pick for the varsity versus the junior varsity team for esports. You use math to do that. Kids don't shy away from doing those calculations when they see that it's got a practical output into something they love. The fact that there are those 16 kinds of work I showed you that are immediately tangential to esports, that extend out to do 120 different kinds of work. And I'm sure that's not all. We'll find more as we get into this. But that there are student scholarships, this idea that kids don't have to think anymore about, do I go to college? Nobody in my family's ever been to college. Is it expensive? Will I get accepted? You've got to weigh in now. There are scholarship potentials for kids who maybe because they won't play sports. They could be very smart, but they just don't apply themselves. So they're not going to get a merit scholarship or something like that. But there's another interesting way they could consider. And then this idea about combining passion and play into a purpose so that a kid can see where this is going. If you were waiting, is this a thing you should be doing? If you were waiting for a sign, this is your sign. This is where I'd like to leave it all right now. Plenty of time for questions and answers. So I'm happy to entertain what anybody's got, any sort of questions whatsoever. There is nothing taboo. There is nothing from which I will shrink, you would imagine, because I talk with parents and administrators regularly. They ask some very sharp questions from time to time. So I'm familiar with all of them, and I'm happy to answer any of them.
Yeah, we haven't had any yet so far. So guys, feel free to drop any questions you have in there. I definitely appreciated talking about how there is now data science behind this now that we've been doing this for so long, because I think that's really important. A lot of people don't feel it's real, but we're making up stories about how much this will impact your students and your student body and the parents, and just how many life lessons this will teach and how kids react and things like that. I really love the research groups that are going on about this now, because I think for everyone to understand it, it's going to take some of that data to back it up, even though we see it live every day happening. So it's always nice to see some of those research groups come down.
But we're looking for more partners, specifically in Illinois. So University of Illinois and Urbana-Champaign and others may be participating with us. We know Harrisburg University in Pennsylvania, Full Sail in Florida. I think it's, who is it? St. Augustine in Texas, and Houston. So other notable universities that have really good, enjoy really good esports teams, but also looking into, as you say, the data science, not just, what makes a better, what makes better synaptic response. So the quicker hand-eye coordination is quicker. That's great. But what else can they be doing with it? Again, along these social emotional lines and these ideas about affiliation and a sense of satisfaction with what goes on at school. I'll tell you that the Department of Homeland Security is actually looking at the use of esports clubs on campuses as a way to mitigate radicalization and extremism. Now, that is like the most sobering thought I've heard, but there have been university level programs that have been, I'll use the word hijacked by those in extremist views. And I'm not pointing at any one point of the world, any one ideology, because it had been something we had not anticipated. But NASEF has been brought in to help regrow a college program based on this club model, the idea that this is what helps defeat this idea about isolationism and a reason for radicalization to approach certain kinds of kids. But let's show how you can find your place, find your purpose in a welcoming community, and you don't need to listen to the noise and the chatter that would have you injure yourself or others. I think this is, and one's kind of crazy scaring, but amazing that this can help. This is a medicine for that particular kind of dis-ease.
Yeah, no, and I think that's kind of what we try to do at the IHSEA is create that community. We're not just some, company that's putting on esports tournaments that you can sign up and then never have to do it. We create communities here. We have a lot of kids, especially this past year, who met that would have never met before, because we're talking about the north of Illinois to south of Illinois. It's almost as bad as California. But they ended up playing together and creating a pro-am team to try and, get into that realm and that sphere. And they would never have met had we not had our organization and been able to create this positive community where people can interact with each other and, be able to do it in the right way. And that's the whole idea, is that a lot of people are like, oh, well, they can't get on Discord because there's a lot of bad stuff on there. It's like, there's a lot of bad stuff in the world. Let's teach them how to use these tools the right way. What they can be used for good, rather than just, being able to, get on there and, like you said, all the radicals and all the radical ideas out there. I think it's really important that we show them the good that can become out of a Discord community, where you really feel like you are part of it, incorporated into it, and feel like a contributing member to that group. Because a lot of these kids that are in esports and are in gaming don't necessarily feel like they're a part of anything, besides their online community that they're already part of, which may be run by other children or other people who we don't align our beliefs with.
Agreed. So I'm just going to show some of the early data, the year 1 into year 2 data that showed us clinically, and this is tracked over time, that yes, kids use their science and math skills that they learn in school. That's the blue and the green, respectively, science and math. They get a bump, like I said, in English language skills because they're able to use their language skills in a non-threatening environment. It's not the same speaking English in a group when you're playing video games as it is standing in front of your peers trying to deliver a verbal report. And you've got to think, did I conjugate right? Do I have an accent? Do I sound like my dad? Oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. Kids are very nervous about that. But in esports clubs, that can simmer down. It's that social emotional learning part in the orange where it just goes off the chart. And year over year, it's only deepening and richening. If we look at what year 2 showed us into year 3, kids are using more and more their STEM skills, what they show, this attention to science and logic, scientific reasoning, using probability, scalability, mathematics. But the fact that their affiliation with the school goes off, like you just said, Todd, that kids are finding that there's their safe spot. I belong in this club. They welcome me. And then in the red and in the purple, this idea about social skills, I get better at those. And then self-regulation, I'm actually moderating what I say. That only dip is right there. It's what is it for? It is for emotional regulation. Kids are becoming aware of, they're owning up that they're salty, that they say things that they regret later, that now they're heading off their mouths with thoughts, that they're realizing what they say matters. And if they have a concern, there's a different way to speak it. They don't have to be, high on the horse, or they don't have to be angry, what we call toxic or spicy. They can do it in an appropriate way. But the fact that they're raising their hand and saying, that's me. I realize I pop off and I want to change that. That's something huge. And again, research is showing it's only deepening and broadening as we go through this, as that research bed continues. So being able to work with other universities like yours in Illinois, having research partners, you're going to look at what's important for right there around you, and you'll be very dialed into your community. So looking forward to that.
And that's exactly what we're trying to do is focus on our community, because as great as a lot of these national organizations are, they're not focused on exactly what's going on in our region. And, that's been shown over time that they, don't necessarily look at each region or communicate with them. And so we want to make sure that everyone in Illinois knows, hey, we are looking out for you. If you have concerns or anything, let us know what you need.
That's it. 32 participants. I can't have done that good a job. Did I explain everything? All the secrets? I got to get one of those mics. I like that idea.
Yeah. Oh, they actually have a newer one now. If you want this one, I'll ship you this one, and I'll buy the new one that actually is not just red. You can have it be whatever color you want.
That's classic. Yeah, the mic is on. No, the idea to tap it to be off. That's great. Otherwise,
and it's bright light in front of your face, so you know when it's on, you know when it's off.
Yeah, there's no excuse, right?
Yep, it worked really well for remote learning. Like if I could, recommend anything, if you're going to teach with a computer again, or if you do a lot of online meetings, that this is a great microphone to have.
Smart.
Awesome. Well, if no one else has any questions, I guess we can end a little bit early. We can actually just jump into our next sessions. Don't start until 1:30, which gives us about 30 minutes of networking time. So if you haven't done it yet, go ahead and click on that networking, get matched with someone. You'll see me in there in a few minutes once I go deal with the kiddos who are just popping in here to ask questions as they always do. I'm proud of them. They gave me an hour of undisturbed time, so I'm very proud of them for that. So
very cool.
I do want to thank you, Kevin, for coming out and speaking.
My pleasure.
I think it was a lot of great information. And I think it's a lot for a lot of people to absorb of what this esports landscape can actually be. And I think it's really important that we show that for all stakeholders, that we're here for the right reasons, and esports can be this really good thing for everyone.
Perfect. I'll make sure you get a copy of this, Todd. So if you get requests after this wonderful session that people are saying, oh, wait, I'd really like to see that again, happy to do that for you. I'll make those available.
Sounds good. Yep, we'll definitely be making sure we get all these slides out from everything this weekend, because it's been so much information. Like I've been popping in every session for like 5 minutes. Oh, okay, cool. Let's go check out this one really quick.
Right.
There's been so much I've been wanting to see, and I'm very glad I only ran one panel, because other than that, I got to actually participate in a lot of this stuff.
Nice.
So. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys.
We
will be heading out. Brill, if you can take us off the stage, and everyone enjoy your networking for the next 30 minutes until our session startup. We'll post a little
notification
in the events.